Man, so you started when Jackson opened the service, maybe at a 4, 7, 8, 9, some 10s maybe, I don't know. My hope is to make your life better. At the end of this message, okay, my hope is that your life's going to be better. That's an audacious goal, and some of you, I don't know if I can do that, but I want to ask the question, how do you get the most joy out of life? Okay? Think about happiness. How do you get the most joy out of life? And some of you have been in church for a long time. You're like, joy, happiness, Christians, does that fit together? Maybe that wasn't your church experience. You came in and it was like just rigid, strict, like no laughter. Some of you were here back in July when Jackson Wilshire, the youth director, talked about party theology. That was pretty fascinating. If you missed that, head back to that one. Shout out to Jackson, who's been absolutely crushing it with our teens and youth leaders. Give it up for Jackson. Yeah. Yeah, dude. But there's this idea that joy and Christians don't belong together. Like, your Christians are just like, you're grumpy, like, just do the right thing, but like grit your teeth while you're doing it, right? Like, that's kind of maybe the concept that's out there. Today, I want to cut in with something that Jesus says, something that Paul says, and add value to your life. That's my hope, okay? And Jesus says something in John 10:10. He says, I came that they may have life and have it abundantly, okay? I came that they'd have life, that you'd have life, and you'd have it abundantly. So this is not just talking about happiness, but it does include happiness. So I want to ask you, like, what would you say is, like, the most happy person you've ever met? Or, like, the happiest group of people you've ever met? Just think about that for a second. I remember back in 2009, I was in a stadium filled with 15,000 people, okay? And it wasn't a concert. It actually wasn't a sports event. It was a conference called Urbana, which is like, it's I guess a missions conference for mostly young adults, okay? I think that's one of the happiest group of people I've ever met, okay? They were not rich, okay? They're like loaded with student debt. They maybe had education, but like their degrees didn't mean anything to them there. They were basically strangers to each other, but like everyone was smiling, everyone was engaged, everyone was just having the time of their life. Why was that? Okay? I really do believe that it was because they were generous, okay? And where you find generous people, there you'll find happiness. There's some kind of link, okay? They were generous with their lives. They were generous with their lives. And some of these people went on to, like my brother, be a missionary. He's currently 11 time zones away from me, okay? So he's doing his thing, loving God out there. There are other people that went on to be business owners, leaders of nonprofits, for-profits, blessing God with their life. There's people that went on to just work average jobs, have an average size home or a condo or a rental, whatever it was, and they just honored God with their life. There's not like a magic potion group of people. These were just people that had generosity at the forefront of their lives, and they wanted to just absolutely give their lives away. And they had some kind of calling on their life. And when I think about this idea, this link between happiness and generosity, okay, there's something there. There's something there. And so I want happiness for you, okay? I want happiness for you. I want that for your life. And another way to say that is this. The happiest people are the ones who leverage their life, okay, laying aside their preferences, conveniences, comforts for the sake of others. So what would make your life better this morning? What would make your life better? Giving. Giving, that would make your life better, okay? Now, some of you are like, whoa, I didn't come here to like be guilted into giving more money and like I've already got enough going on. Don't worry, I'm not guilting you. I'm not even going to talk about money. Sound good? All right, you guys are feeling better already. But Jesus has a few things to say, including this line that maybe you've heard before. It is more blessed to give than to receive. Jesus said that. It's more blessed to give than to receive. And in case, you're just backpedaling, like you want out of this, let's just settle it, okay? I'm not after your money. God's got a lot of money, and in his timing, he is going to stir you to do what you're going to do with your money. But God does want your heart. He wants your life, and we're going to dive into that. Now, does following God make your life better? We're going to look at it. There's a whole lot of self-sacrifice. There's a whole lot of laying your life down. But I think if you were to compare the options that are out there, you'll realize that in the world, okay, you're inundated with messages about not give, but get. Right? It's, I want more. Accumulation of wealth, accumulation of power. We never have enough. That's what every ad's telling you. You don't have that, so you need it. And your life will be so much better if you just have it. How's that working for us? Not too great, hey? That's been my experience, that stuff does not necessarily make my life any better. So we're going to turn to Acts 20. And in here, we're going to find where Jesus is quoted saying, it's more blessed to give than to receive. But we're going to look at something that Paul is recorded as writing, I think is a clue for us for how to get the most out of life. So we're going to start Acts 20, verse second half of 18. And I'll read it here. So Paul's writing to a group of leaders in a church that he started, okay? You yourselves know how I lived among you the whole time from the first day that I set foot in Asia, serving the Lord with all humility and with tears and with trials that happened to me. So just for context, Paul's at a stage in his life where he's sacrificed basically everything there is to give, okay? He's sacrificed by traveling for the last 20 years of his life. He's traveled sometimes on his own will. Sometimes he's been in jail. He's been shipwrecked. He's been beaten. He's been stoned. It's cost him everything, okay? So when it says, in humility and with tears and with trials, he means what he says, okay? He's been through the ringer. And then he continues on, okay? We're going to skip to verse 24. It says, but I do not account my life as any value nor as precious to myself, if only I may finish my course in the ministry that I received from the Lord Jesus to testify to the gospel of the grace of God. So why is he doing all that he's doing in life? Okay? Because God's put a call on his life to share with other people the grace of God. Okay? And he is setting aside distractions to be laser focused on the thing that God's led him into. And that's what that Urbana Missions Conference experience was me. People just kind of, let's set aside the distractions, let's get laser focused on what does God want us doing. And then he continues on, he says this in verse 33. I coveted no one's silver or gold or clothing. I didn't need your stuff, okay? I got enough. You yourselves know that these hands, I think he's talking about his own, ministered to my necessities and to those who were with me. In all things, I've shown you that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak. And remember the words of the Lord Jesus, how he himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Okay, let's pause there. I don't need your stuff, okay? God's providing my needs, and I'm working hard. Why am I working hard? To help the weak. Because it's more blessed to give than to receive. And then it closes this way. And when he had said these things, he knelt down and prayed with them all. And there was much weeping on the part of all. They embraced Paul. And later it says, and they accompanied him to the ship. So when he has to leave, okay, they're sad. So quick little recap, right? Talking about generosity here. It involves self-sacrifice. It involves humility. It involves some self-forgetfulness on the part of Paul and us, if we want that in our lives. It involves working hard. It's not just going to fall on our lap. It involves an attention to the needs of particularly the weak, okay? And it involves a level of relationship with people that when you leave, you're missed, okay? When you leave, you're missed. So those are kind of the pieces in place that I would love for us as a church to embody, as individuals to embody in our whole life, and our lives will be better for it. There is a radical generosity that inspires that kind of life. And when you look at Paul's life, you look at like, why would he do that? Like, do you do that just to be a nice person? No, you don't do that just to like be a nice moral person. You do that, you lay your life on the line day after day after day because you've experienced a transformation that really only one person can bring in your life, and that's Jesus. Jesus brings a transformation that nothing else can do. And some of us have experienced that at our heart level. It's like, I'll never be the same. Some of us, we hear about Jesus, and it just hasn't clued into us. But I think no matter where you're at in your faith journey, I think we could say Jesus has to be one of, if not the most generous people in history. Right? When you look at Jesus' life, he's got to be one of the most generous, I think he is, the most generous person in history. When you look at his life, he's generous with his time. Okay, when the children are coming to him and people are trying to like shoo them away, he's like, no, like let them come here. With outcasts and like the people that society just pushed away, he's like, no, let them come to me. He's generous in pouring into a group of people that probably didn't deserve his attention. He's generous in every aspect of his life. His teaching, there's about 40 different stories that he tells. Like a quarter of them roughly have to do with money, generosity, possessions. Okay, so he's like, I'm not just going to live it, I'm going to teach it. Okay, and he doesn't just live it, teach it, he also like lives it as he dies. Okay, he's generous even in his own death. Not forced into death, but choosing death for us. So that's why Paul takes on this kind of life. Okay? He takes on this kind of life. And I was just thinking about how at Urbana, that conference, the theme was John 1:14. And I'll read it here. You might know this translation. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. Glory is the one and only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. But here's a paraphrase that really stood out to me back then. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw the glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, like Father, like Son. Get this, generous inside and out, true from start to finish. Isn't that a cool description of who God is? Generous inside and out. And then later, we all live off his generous abundance, gift after gift after gift. I had to write this down here. When we understand our identity as beloved children of God, we're freed to give generously from a place of security rather than scarcity. Security rather than scarcity. I hope you're not trying to earn God's grace, okay? You're not an employee of God, okay? Even if you work on staff at Path of Church, you're not an employee of God. You are a child of God. And as you experience the radical love of God, that transforms your heart. And you give freely of your life. This summer, on vacation, speaking of what Jason was talking about, vacation, I was thinking about generosity, and I was sitting on the dock talking to Sonia. I said, I would like to be more generous. I'm not a super generous person. My wife is. Those of you that know my wife, Sonia, she is like, puts anyone to shame. She sees a need, she meets it. She doesn't just put it on a calendar, like, it's happening. Okay, it's happening. She's showing up. She's blessing someone. She's loving on someone. And, but I got a lot of growth that I need there. And maybe you have someone in your life that inspires you into a greater level of generosity. And you want to take a step. You want to move in that direction. See, sometimes I think we get stuck thinking, I just don't have what it takes to give. I don't have enough. And you just kind of have clenched fists, and someone has to come along and open up your hands and help you realize, like, just give. And as I was on vacation, I was reading a book by this guy named Ronald Rolheiser. Can everyone say that name? Ronald Rolheiser. How strong is that? Any Ronalds that you know? Oh, that's amazing. And he's got this book, Sacred Fire, and he talks about 3 different stages of spiritual maturity. And I'll lay them out here for you. First stage is to get your life together. Okay? Second stage, give your life away. Third stage, give your death away. Probably most of us are in stage one, okay? And that's where you're searching for an identity. You're searching for affection. You're searching for friends, intimacy, career, security. In a word, you're searching for a home. And at a certain point, maybe in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe never, but some of us land at that transition point, and we find ourselves headed into stage two, okay? We're at home. We have a sense of settledness in life and a good grasp of who we are and what we want to do. And then he writes this: our question as we enter stage two is no longer, how do I get my life together? Rather, it becomes, how do I give my life away more deeply, more generously, and more meaningfully? How do I give my life away more deeply, more meaningfully, and more generously? But what can happen is that we get stuck at a point in life where we never move to the next stage. Like, life's good, and that's all we need, okay? And we don't push to the next level. We don't push to the next stage. Like, as long as things are fine in my world, I'm good enough. But I want to challenge us to go to the next level, okay? To give our lives away. That's what I'm talking about to you today. We're just going to give our lives away. And I had a bit of an analogy I want to share with you. 2 years ago, my family had the opportunity to go on a 12-day road trip from Calgary through to Vancouver. And if you've ever done the trek, it's like stunning, right? So we had this itinerary. We're going through Calgary, Banff, Revelstoke, down to Okanagan, Vancouver Island, back to Vancouver. Incredible, incredible. The trek to get there was an absolute disaster, okay? Still fighting the airline for the money, and they canceled flight, the whole bit. I'm only I think in the queue, I'm 29,000th case to be reviewed. So I'm not bitter at all. I'm not bitter. No, it's fine. It's fine. We got there and sorted out the rent-a-car, the whole bit. We get there and we make our way, if you've ever been there, the foothills, you're into Canmore, you're at the start of the Rockies. Hands up if you've been to the Rockies. Man, it's incredible. The rest of you, get on out there. And then hopefully come back because we love you, right? But get on out there, see it. My wife, kids, they'd never been out there. And as we roll into Kananaskis, Canmore, you can't even fathom how gorgeous it is. And second day, we're in Banff, doing all the things, Bow Falls, Cow's ice cream, and beaver tails, or whatever, just everything. And I kind of thought to myself, hey, we got here, we dealt with a canceled flight, man, we could just stay here. This is kind of a cool place, it's quaint, it's lovely. You could just stay in Banff for the rest of your life. How awesome would that be, right? How awesome would that be? But if we had stayed there, we would have missed out. I think I got a few pictures. We would have missed out on Moraine Lake. We would have missed out on that right there. How gorgeous is that? What you don't see in that picture is the tears streaming down my wife's face on the other side, right? Just completely taken with that. If we had stopped in Banff, if we got stuck there, we would not have got this rock. How cool is that rock? Now, with this trail in the old Revelstoke, called Inspiration Trail, okay? And my daughter decides at the top of the hill she's going to grab a rock and carry it down 5 kilometers. And we thought she was crazy, and maybe she is, but she did it. And we took it home, and then I don't know what happened with the rock, so this is not it. I just grabbed a random rock. But it looked like this, okay? So just go with me. We would not have experienced Inspiration Trail, which was it was a random hike, and it was one of the highlights of our family vacation. If we had got stuck in Banff in a comfortable spot and said no to adventure and the unknowns, we would have missed out on, anyone been to Vancouver Island? Check out this picture, okay? Wow. We would have, Like, how do you even put into words the kinds of things that you miss out on when you settle for like a pretty good spot in life? And so I want to use this analogy of the road trip to say, like, guys, don't get stuck in Banff. There's more. There is more for you in life. And you can get to a spot where you feel at home. You feel settled in your career. You feel settled in friendships. You feel settled in a neighborhood. You feel settled. You just feel settled, and that's all you ever get, is just settled. I want to challenge us, like, let's not stop the adventure. Let's be generous with our lives. If not, we miss out on Inspiration Trail. Okay? So there's joy in being generous. And like Jackson said, here's one way to be generous, okay? You could be generous with time. Sign up for maybe Pathway Kids. Maybe guest services, production. There's so many different ways that you could give of your time, the skills that God's wired into you. Just use those. Like, bless people. Like, you wouldn't even begin to believe the impact that you can have just by saying a small yes. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous in relationships. Okay, you can just open up your home, invite your neighbor over for a barbecue. Like, boom. Like, things open up for you, opportunities to give your life away. It doesn't always involve money, right? Like, it's just like, give your life away. Give your life away. Open up those hands, open-handed, give your life away. Small ways, big ways, the whole bit. So let's not get stuck in Banff. And maybe God is leading you to give your life away in one of these areas. Maybe, okay, it's not at Pathway, but there's some other way. Maybe there's a partner organization here in town. Maybe it's something that's not even a formal thing. You just want to like commit to praying for someone or a group. Maybe you want to go do something. Maybe it's just like the posture of your heart that needs to change from like stinginess and ego and grabbing for more, and God just wants to like shake that out of you. Use this card and just write down whatever God is leading you into. It doesn't have to be Pathway related. We're not here just to pitch like Pathway. I want generosity for you because as you're generous, you experience joy. You experience that. In a second, we're going to play a video of some volunteers and what their experience has been and how it's changed them. But I just want us to just take stock of our life. Okay, as you think about what September holds in the year ahead, like, where are you going to be generous? How are you going to give your life away? Like, that's such an opportunity. The impact is massive. So just think about that and write down some ideas. Hey, I'm good at this. I want to explore this. I've noticed this person, and they probably could use a friend. Like, just write down little thoughts, okay? And if you're to fill out one of these, it does not mean, hey, you're in. It just means you're going to start a conversation, okay? So just start a conversation. But we've got a video of some different volunteers sharing their experience of what it's been like being generous.
Hi, I'm Abelli.
I'm Katie.
And we are youth leaders for the grade 7 girls now.
My name is Monique Ivanhoven. I teach the grade 1 to 3 kids, and I've been teaching Pathway Kids for probably 8 years now.
I moved here and I didn't really know a lot of people, and then I just started serving, and I got to create a great community and just meet so many people.
Started serving about a year ago, and just being able to show up and meet more people in the community. Like Abelli said, the girls often come to us at church, but not only that, we have so many leaders who have been able to pour into our lives, and you come to church and you know so many more people and just feel more connected.
I started many years ago, new to the church, and for me, Pathway Kids became a way to grow my community. To come into a large church like this and it's sometimes awkward. Church ends and you don't know who to talk to, and to build relationships and to build community, I needed to have purpose. I needed to have a reason to be here. I needed to have value to add. And so this was such an easy way. But going through COVID and going through some really difficult times in my life, it would have been really easy for me to not just go to church on a Sunday or 2 Sundays or 3 Sundays. But having that commitment and having that purpose of showing up for those kids got me through some really hard times, and I'm really grateful for being able to serve here.
And then serving at youth specifically has just been such an impactful and life-changing experience, because you just get to learn from the kids and then just share your testimony and your faith journey in your life, and you're living life together and you're walking your relationship with God together, and that's just such an impactful thing for me.
I leave every week with such energy because I love to see what the kids bring, and when I ask questions, how they answer it. They're always coming up with things that I hadn't thought of, and they speak to me. They speak God's truth to me in ways that I never expect.
At the beginning of last year, we got to help them learn how to pray, and that was just like a cool opportunity. And then from there, it kind of developed over the year, and we ended up being there on their baptism day. So
also really love working with our teens. We have an amazing group of teens in our church, and to see their creativity and how the kids listen differently to our teens is really powerful. We have a very strong faith in our teens, and it's very exciting. Ready?
Come join the team.
So isn't that cool? Like, man, I love that. Yeah. You have joy like that when you're generous like that, okay? They go together, okay? And God's inviting us to be a part of his work in some way. And I remember sharing at a VBS huddle in this room a couple years back, we're talking about how what they did as volunteers that day would actually have an impact on eternity. And that's still true, okay? How you live your life will have an impact on eternity. And what I'd say is heaven will actually look different, okay, as a result of what happens today. So let's give our all. And so there's just this, I love what this video shared, what Monique said, Abella, Katie, just laying your life down for the sake of others. And you see the joy that they had as they experienced that. So it's more blessed to give than to receive. And it's a lot of giving, okay? It's a lot of giving. What they didn't tell you was that if you're a youth leader, you're there for 2.5, 3 hours every week, almost every week, for likely multiple years, pouring your heart out, okay? But you can teach kids how to pray. You can experience them take massive steps. They were and still are the small group leaders for my daughter who got baptized a few months ago. As a dad, I can't even put into words how thankful I am. So thank you. But that happens because of sacrifice, right? It doesn't just happen. So when Paul says, he says, in all things I've shown you that by working hard in this way, we must help the weak, okay? That's an invitation that by working hard, you can help the weak. And our city needs this, and we need it for each other. And so it's not a guilt thing. I'm not saying do more. I'm just saying there's a heart posture that probably needs to change so that we open up our hands to ask God, what do you want from me? How can I give my life away to you today or this year? And then we'll do the hard work, right? So I love you guys. Thank you for being who you are. And together we are seeing an impact on this city that's really, really special. So let's keep at it. And God's going to do his thing. We're going to do our part. His part is insanely bigger than ours, but we'll do our little part and love him. So let's pray. Lord, thank you that you're just such a generous God. Your grace poured out through Jesus, your grace poured out through the lives and opportunities that we have. Lord, I just pray that you'd keep us from settling right where we are. Lead us into sacrifice, humility, hard work for you, God. And you're worthy of it all. So just praise you for who you are. In Christ's name.